Yeah. If I can, no, I make sure to check them out first. But God has allowed me to stay pretty healthy here, and I could still move around real well. So I'm still holding the belt, I guess.
Yeah, I wanted to have you on because for several reasons. We talked some basketball, but of course, with Coach Krzyzewski retiring, and the first thing I thought about was those monumental games that you guys had against him, and getting to go up there, and then obviously the game, which to me is one of the most almost an underrated game that I don't think people realize how big a deal it was when you guys beat Duke up in Syracuse. That was an amazing game to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, probably that Butler game at the beginning. That's huge. We played a top 10 team in the second round, Illinois, with several pros. Right. You look at that. We looked at our draw and thought, wow, this is really unbelievable. But we just kind of handled them. Then that Duke game in the Sweet 16, Carrier Dome was packed. Both teams playing really well. And, at that time, they were the hands down number one. Some people saying the best team ever in college basketball. They had Jason Williams, Mike Dunleavy, Carlos Boozer, Shane Battier, just to name a few of the first round draft picks they have. But that was the game where, the style of play we committed to, everybody sacrificing time and minutes to play, a pressing, physical, full court style game where defense was really our main focus. And our style of play in that particular game really, really was the difference. And it was basically the only way to beat them. And I got to give the coaches a lot of credit. They built that team to win a championship. And sometimes we lost games during the season that we shouldn't have. But that type of team wasn't designed to go undefeated. It was designed to win at the end. Whereas I think down the road, he built teams a little bit differently, a little less depth in terms of, who was coming in there expecting to get minutes right away, build a real core, starting five, the right guys off the bench, just a different complement of players. But I mean, you got to remember at the time, Coach Donovan was still in his early 30s. He was just getting started. There was quite a big learning curve. And, as I talk to him now as adults, as grownups, we've learned a lot. We've all come a long, long way since then. But that Duke game, oof, boy, oh boy, was that amazing.
What was it like to play in that Carrier Dome? Because to me, when you're covering a game like that, you kind of lose. You're just watching the court. You're not worried about all the surroundings. But I mean, the shooting lines were different and everything like that. It was almost like you were getting prepared to go play in a dome for the Final Four.
Yep. Well, we played in the Georgia Dome for the SEC tournament. Right. We had played in some big domes already. Of all the big, massive domes that I played in, the Carrier Dome seemed to be the one that was still kind of built for basketball, where you had sort of equal sides. You didn't have these like, honestly, in some of the places you'd get a little draft, doors would open and wind would come through there. You could really feel it. So a lot of those places aren't built for basketball, but they are built to put a lot of people in them. But I think the Carrier Dome was a little darker, just a much easier dome to play in than any of the other places we played. But obviously Syracuse plays there all the time, so that wouldn't be a big surprise. But I mean, at the time, when you're in a game like that, you really don't think about anything except, the guys you're going against and the guys you're playing with.
That was an amazing team, obviously what they did, but the way they would come at you with 10 guys, your Florida team, because you were bringing Nelson and Bonner and these guys off the bench.
Donnell Harvey.
Harvey.
I mean, we had such an incredible mix of guys, with Brent Wright and Matt Bonner. What they were so different in some areas, but again, the coaches, the way they developed our kids, for years and years. I mean, the development and the growth you saw from every single player from the day they walked in on campus to the day they were done. And not just as people and not just physically, anybody can put muscles on, but skills, shooting, handling, passing. You never really held your breath when anybody had the ball. Everybody was an above adequate ball handler, passer, and shooter. And so when we made substitutions, we weren't really having to change what we did as a team. And I think that's what made us really unique. You know, you look at a guy like, you know, again, a Matt Bonner and a Brent Wright, two guys very, very different, but they were both so big. They were both so skilled. We were never limited in any way when either one of them were on the court, or when both of them were on the court together.
Now, I had Torian Green on the other day. We were talking about one time when he threw the team off the practice court, brought him back at midnight, all taped up. I don't know if he ever did that to you guys or not.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We earned it, I guess. You know, as I coach now, I realize that on every single play, you could find something kind of wrong, kind of right, or very wrong. So I think a lot of times that stuff was more on what we had coming up, where the team was focus-wise, where they wanted us to be. And, you know, sometimes you just need a wake-up call, especially young kids. You know, you think you're adults, you know, and you are, I guess, legally, but when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, you really still are a kid. And when you're a little kid, you fear your parents, and you act right for fear of, you know, the people that you're, you know, that are watching out for you. And we were definitely scared of Coach.
And that's the thing. I mean, you know, you came up there and you kind of bought into what he was selling, and he bought into you. Obviously, you were the all-time lead scorer. In fact, I remember being at your game the day you broke the record. And I had never seen you play before. And I turned to Chris Harry, who was there with me, and I go, his range is half court. As soon as he gets past half court, he's letting it fly if he's open.
Well, you know, at the time I was playing for Coach Donovan's high school coach. You know, that whole story. I mean, we don't want to go through too much of that again, but, you know, obviously Billy played for Frank Morris. I played for Tim Malone in my first 2 years. Then he went off to start coaching in college. And obviously congratulations to him. You know, he had such a big part of Baylor building, you know, that program. Sure. And he was there a long time, and what a great guy. But I needed a coach. So it was either go to Miami High and play with Frank Martin and the crew, or stick around. And they had Frank Morris come coach me those last 2 years. And I had the green light. But even more, you know, impressive than that is that's what he had me practicing in practice. You know, we weren't running 5-on-0 plays in practice and then asking me to go make plays and make like shots like that in the game. You know, we took a lot of shots. I got a lot of reps and a lot of very tough shots, you know, and everything was kind of geared around. That was our philosophy as a team. And, you know, I could make the shots. I practiced the shots. It worked out really well for us. But in another situation with a coach who was more about what they did and not about playing to the strengths of the teams, none of that probably ever would have happened. So, you know, I definitely recognize how fortunate I was. And that's one of the situations where you don't have to be years past it to see it. I realized how fortunate I was at that time, and I wanted to make the most of it. I know a lot of coaches don't let their players play with that kind of freedom.
Yeah, it's funny because when I think about your career at Florida, I think one comparison I make is to Tim Tebow, because you were so competitive, and sometimes that was polarizing. Other teams got mad at you. We know Michigan State got really mad at you, and I get to East Lansing and the headline says Dupay Day. Like, well, come on, it's just a college basketball game in December.
Well, I mean, there was no such thing as hate speech then. You know, you could say whatever you wanted to anybody you wanted to back then, and the crowd was just ruthless when we went back the next year. But yeah, from a competitive standpoint, you know, I tell the kids, I'm with kids, I coach every day, you know, every day, all different ages, all different skill levels. And I tell them, you know, if I wasn't able to shoot the ball, none of that stuff would have mattered. But that's not why I was able to play at that level on championship caliber teams and play such a significant role. It was my ability to learn how to, you know, play defensively and take that personal, you know, to train and practice, which are things a lot of kids don't learn how to do and never learn how to do. I did learn how to do that. But that competitive edge, I mean, that is something that makes, even to this day, I've met basically nobody like me, and it's cost me relationships, and it oftentimes, you know, created a lot of friction in a lot of areas, but I want to win so bad. And, you know, it's just, it's just who I am. And I think that's the one personality trait or even skill you could call it that really set me apart, even more so than the shooting. Because, Billy didn't have me shooting from half court. I didn't really get to shoot that much anyway. There are very few
Right.
games I even took 10 shots in a game, which I was okay with. And there were other places like Duke where, they made it crystal clear that wouldn't be the case and that type of thing. But, at that time, scoring those points and getting so much recognition and accolades in high school, just so much recognition. I felt like I kind of had my fill of that. And I did want to be a part of a team that really won big. And deep down in my heart, I didn't feel like if I was scoring 20 or 30 points a game, that was a recipe to win championships in college basketball. It would have been nice. And, would have had a chance to maybe do some other things, with inflated stats, maybe at the next level, who knows, but that's not where my focus was. And when Coach Donovan talked about committing early, being the first guy to commit, really helping build out what our team would look like and who I'd be playing with, that just really, really appealed to me. I want to win. I want to win more than I want to score. And for the teams I was on in high school, the only way we could win was for me to go bonkers and score a lot of points and play with a very high efficiency. So I wasn't just trying to pad the stats. That was the only way we could win. We won a lot. But at the end of the day, when we'd run into a team like Miami High, I could not score enough points to beat them. And so I realized that. And, I was willing to give that up and sacrifice that to be a part of a team. I want to win bad.
Last question for you. Did you realize at the time the importance of you being the first guy to commit to Billy, and all of a sudden everybody's like, whoa, what? Florida? They're a football school. And all of a sudden it steamrolls, and then it's Mike and it's Brent and all these other guys.
Yeah, but I mean, even Mike, nobody knew about Mike. He grew, and going into that senior year, when I knew him as juniors, he was 6'2". Brent Wright, not highly rated. I knew him since we were I was in 8th grade. He was in 9th grade. Udonis I knew when he was in Jacksonville, and when I was considering going to Miami High, he was still at Jacksonville Wolves, and he did go to Miami High. I didn't. That was going into our junior year. Obviously Silbrin, who didn't get to come, but he would have been amazing as well. But Ladarius was tremendous, but Ladarius was like a top 50 player, top 100 player. He wasn't really highly rated. So, I think a lot of times I knew what we could do, which is why we made that decision. Billy is mesmerizing, as he's proven now over the decades on all different levels. What he's done at the NBA, nobody else has done that. There's no other college coach who's made the jump and the guy's coach of the year. And I even look at what he's done with a guy like Russell Westbrook, who was so out of control. All the tools, Russ has had them the whole time. But once Billy really showed him how to play and what that means, a lot of guys say, hey, you got to learn how to play the game the right way, or hey, you got to take the right angles or change speeds. But not many people teach how you actually do that. If a coach says to you, you got to change speeds. Well, how do I do that, coach? Well, go fast, go slow. It's not like that. Billy does a really good job of breaking that down and teaching you how to play winning basketball. And you took a guy like Russell Westbrook, who was amazing, and you turn him into the MVP of the league. You take a guy who was just so fast, he was running out of control. All of a sudden now he's averaging triple doubles. I mean, there were years ago, people would say Oscar Robertson was the best player ever, even above Jordan, because he averaged a triple double. Mm-hmm. Russell Westbrook does it every year. And so much of that I credit to Coach Donovan, not just being knowledgeable enough to teach him that type of stuff, but to be able to communicate with him in a way to get an NBA All-Star who's fiery competitor to actually get to listen to him. That's an art in itself. And he's just amazing. So I knew that could anybody have known that, Billy Donovan would be like probably the most impressive, successful player or coach in all of basketball for the last 2 decades. I mean, nobody could have anticipated that. I don't think he'd have been able to tell you that. But if you'd have told me at the time that was going to happen from your crystal ball, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hey, we'll let you get back to coaching. We know that you're busy, obviously, and it's great, all the work you're doing. Is there anything you want to plug? I mean, as far as the Dupay Basketball Academy?
Oh, man, Nah, nothing to plug, nothing to sell. We're just doing great things, helping kids. I really enjoy where I'm at. And, this is, again, credit to Coach Donovan. I remember when I was thinking about making some changes in a big way, getting back into basketball. I was away for about 10 years. In college would have been cool, would have been tough, to get in and kind of work through some past issues just from a college standpoint where we're recruiting against people. No doubt we would have been successful there. But then he said the NBA would have been an easy route. I could work my way up there and really would enjoy working with pros. But his advice was, you look at what you've done for Florida, not Florida Gator basketball, but just Florida basketball. You're the all-time leading scorer still. You were, on a national scene. You even put kind of like high school Florida basketball on the map, the first big AAU team we were on back then. But he's like, you got those records, and then being an early commit as a sophomore, sometimes people do that, but it never works out. It did for you. We built a tradition and a culture here, based on really the kind of that decision. It fast forwarded everything for us. And he's like, and he's told me, what you've done for my career, and I'm very close with him and Chris still. He's like, if you could do something then with the grassroots level, where you're helping more than just amazing basketball players, but all people who come across the game of basketball and really move the game forward. And once again, that vision, it really appealed to me, and, he helped me see things a different way. And I always wanted to have the Ted Dupay Basketball Academy, but this I could have never imagined, what we have built. This year we have 6 players signed Division I scholarships.
Wow.
We have, hundreds, even thousands of players now who are better, stronger people. They're taking that traditional path where they make a freshman team, make a JV team, play on the varsity team, then have a senior night. And they learn how to play, they learn how to be a teammate, and they get to enjoy that amazing high school experience. And then just a lot of kids who don't have an athletic bone in their body, but you still can learn so much from sports. We give them a way, to get involved with sports and really love it. And at the end of the day, this is what I've been really blessed to do. So I'm teaching kids how to be better people, leading by example, really expressing my faith and showing people, what I believe based on how I act. And I think we are making the world a better place. So one thing I would also say, though, is that we want to pray for Major Parker, great friend of mine, another player on that team that was very unsung hero. And he's been having a couple of health issues lately. So I want everybody to send prayers his way. Very close friend, even after all these years. So that is something I'd ask from everybody, is to just keep Major in your prayers. We've been praying about him a lot, hoping he has a swift, speedy recovery.
Absolutely. We'll see how that works out. And I don't know the update, but maybe we'll talk sometime off the air about that, where he is right now. But Teddy, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Yes. I always love to interview you. One of my favorite interviews, because you never held anything back. I loved it when you stomped on the press table. All those things and more. But thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for everything, always.
All right, buddy. Teddy Dupay, one of the greats in Florida history, and of course, kind of got things started, by coming to Florida. And that was a huge deal. You went, wow, Florida got Teddy Dupay because he was that big a deal. And then, of course, it just steamrolled, and everybody kept coming, and they built this unbelievable team, and it was pretty amazing. So we appreciate him coming on board. At the bottom of the hour, Hays Carlyon will join us, who, of course, is 1010XL, does radio up there. We'll talk a little bit about the Jaguars and about Tim Tebow, who we just mentioned. But I did want to talk about, because we wanted to get Teddy on, because Teddy had to get back to coaching. So usually I start off a little monologue, and I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do it a little later. But the monologue is it's kind of what I wrote for, I'm not sure if it's up yet, I think it's up, for the Back Nine and for WRUF.com. And it is this has been the smelliest, stinkiest postseason, I think, ever for Florida. Now, I don't want to say ever, because that's not right. I'm sure that in the 70s they had a season maybe where they had no teams in the postseason. And that is what I was trying to bring across in my column, and my wife and I got into this big argument about it. She said, it's not enough that the Gators are in the postseason. They're supposed to be in the postseason. I said, yeah, but not every place can say that. There are places where they go, man, it'd be nice to get into the baseball regional every once in a while. There are teams that celebrate getting into the baseball regional, and certainly to be hosting it. that said, it has smelled really bad around here. Just bad breaks, bad everything. And of course, it wrapped up, whoop, little thunder coming there. Hopefully we don't get knocked off the air. But it wrapped up with the baseball. Now, I told you I wasn't going to jinx a team. I wasn't going to go over there, but I did. I couldn't help it. We didn't do the radio, so I went over there. They were already losing, so you can't say I jinxed them. And then to get embarrassed 19-1 on Saturday, it's just embarrassing. That's all it is. In fact, I presented this question. Maybe you guys can think about this. What was more embarrassing for you this academic year? Losing, I'll give you three options. Losing to Oklahoma 55-20, embarrassing score. Team didn't show up, didn't want to play. Coach didn't want to be there. Nobody wanted to be there. You know, sometimes we say that about teams. We say that team didn't want to be there. This team said afterwards they didn't want to be there. All right, that losing to a 15 seed in the NCAA tournament after you catch a break, and the 15 beats the 2, so now you're playing it's a 15-7 game, and not only that, but you're up in double digits in the second half, and you blow that game. That was pretty embarrassing. Or losing 19-1 and having your season over. There have been a lot of good things that have happened with Florida athletics this year, but this is Florida, and you're all judged by how you do in the postseason. It's just the way it is. You know, even gymnastics. Now, most of that had to do with Trinity Thomas's injury. She wasn't ready to go, wasn't ready to be 100%, and they'll finish fourth in the country, and we're like, oh man, fourth in the country. That's terrible. But that's the way it is around here, and that's fine, and I like that aspect of it. But the Gator baseball fans right now are pretty upset with Sully, and I keep getting asked this question, is he going to LSU? And I go, well, no, I don't think he is, but I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's going to go there. But that was embarrassing. This team was so hard to watch all year, and every time it was almost like this beautiful girl or a beautiful guy, if you prefer men. If you're a woman, you may prefer men. And you would always see her, and she would always say, hey, come on over, let's go for a drink. And then she wouldn't call you. This was this baseball team. You would start to go, hey, I like this team. You know, I like the way they're fighting and doing this. And then they would lose, they'd get swept. And then they'd lose 13-1 or 19-1. They were just a weird team. I will say this, Friday's game going out there was really frustrating for me, and I actually got a little vocal as a fan, which I'm allowed to do now, because I was getting people to ask me this question that I couldn't answer. Look, imagine this is a baseball diamond. There's one guy here, there's one guy here, there's one guy here, there's one guy here, and there's one guy way the heck over here. Where would you hit the ball? I get this backwards. You would hit the ball right there, right? Who was the MVP of the National League last year? I believe his name was Frederick Freeman, right? What did he say? When he gets 2 strikes, what does he do? He tries to hit the ball as a left-hander right over the shortstop's head as hard as he can. And that means, you know, he'll probably have room. These guys play a shift. You had a team that was playing all shifts. Nobody ever tried to lay down a bunt or just say, hey, let me just bang the ball over here. You're losing, and you're down by more than multiple runs. You need to get guys on base. Nope. Everybody's trying to hit a homer. And that, I think, was the biggest problem with this team. This team did not have the pitching we thought it had, but certainly the way they made mistakes at the plate, situational hitting was non-existent. But just not, look, you're down 2. You're up. Bounce the ball right where there is no players. I think it was Yogi Berra, the great Yogi Berra, who said, hit them where they ain't. They wouldn't hit them where they weren't. And it goes back to my theory. I've said this on the air. I've said it on radio. I've said it on this podcast, that this was a team with a lot of players who were trying to make the big leagues. It wasn't a team with a lot of players trying to win college baseball games. And that happens sometimes. And I'll be honest with you, it's like I said to my wife, Sunday, we didn't have any baseball to watch, and I was kind of bummed a little bit. Then I went, you know what? I'm so tired of watching this team anyway. But at the same time, they hosted a regional. What happened with softball? They hosted a super regional. Disappointing loss, scored 0 runs against Georgia. Still, they hosted a super regional. That doesn't happen a lot of places. You got to a New Year's Six Bowl. It was embarrassing. You got to the basketball tournament. It was embarrassing. So it was about, like, if you got the glass, do you see it half full or half empty? Man, it is barely on that half full line. And that is a lot of half empty out there. But the bottom line is, don't forget where you are and why it's still the best place to be, because they're in every postseason, except women's basketball. We'll get them in there. We have to take a break. When we come back, Hays Carlyon will join us from the 1010XL. Does a great job up there talking about some Jaguars, and we'll talk some Gators with him too, because he certainly follows the program as well. You're watching Another Dooley Noted Podcast. You're watching it here on the Freddie Weeby TV station. That's what I'm going to start calling it. But you're watching it here. We'll be back with you with Hays Carlyon. And don't forget, we still have to get to the Adam Ribko to go, Gators of the weekend, Leonardo's Millhopper quick picks as well. So, and the hand law, 3 things. Tons of stuff to talk about when we return here on Another Dooley Noted Podcast.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Ribko to go. What would give you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where, everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Ribko to go. Come on down and enjoy it. This is Pat Dooley, and I want to tell you about my friends at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. I'm a member, and you should be too. It's the oldest Gator booster club in the world and a great place to meet new friends, network with prominent business people, and hear a great collection of speakers, including Dan Mullen, throughout the football season. Go ahead and give John Stevens a call at 352-222-8516 or sign up on the website, quarterbackclub.org. Thanks so much to our title sponsors, ABC Fine Wine and Spirits and Titan MRI, and to our pick sponsor, Leonardo's of Millhopper. You can find us live on Facebook and YouTube, or listen at your leisure on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you find all your favorite podcasts. I'm excited to continue this podcast and to have your company on board as a sponsor. If you're interested in being part of the show, email me at patrickdooley54@gmail.com or give me a call, 352-317-3444. All right, and welcome back to Another Dooley Noted Podcast. Excuse the lightning here, man. There is a storm coming through here that hopefully will not knock us off the air, although it was weird. The other night, the fan in our bedroom went off just briefly, so there was some kind of power surge. And then when I went to it was Saturday. When I went to the bank, everything was down. They had to do everything by hand. It was like the old days. Let me write this out for you, sir. Yes, you have this deposit and this and this and this. It wasn't working. It's a great pleasure to now welcome in my good friend Hays Carlyon, who, of course, used to cover the Gators back in the old days. That's where he kind of got his expertise. But now with 1010XL, and does a great job with them, working with the great Frank Frangie as well. And I'm sure Frank tells you how great he is all the time, doesn't he?
He does. Pat, it's great to see you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, let's talk a little Jaguars and a little, of course, Tim Tebow. We can't help it. down here in Gainesville. Hey, Hays, are you surprised at the vitriol that is being shown towards Tim by national media? Or do you say, well, that's the way it was when he played with Denver. That's the way it was when he was somewhere else. That's the way it was when he was in Florida. People always seem to find a reason to hate him, even though he's one of the nicest guys in the world.
Yeah, it did surprise me because, the argument was, well, he's such a major long shot to make the team. Well, there's 90 guys on a roster that's going to get cut to 53. So newsflash, 25 guys that are out there are long shots. I mean, that's the nature of the NFL this time of year, where you're going to cut 37 players between now and the opener. So there's a lot of long shots in this league. So I don't, that narrative of, well, he's such a long shot, it's not worth trying. That didn't make a lot of sense to me because of his familiarity with the coaching staff, with certainly Urban, and in the fact that he is a great athlete. And why not take the chance that, I don't know how much he can help them as a tight end that creates separation, runs great routes, that kind of thing. But he's got such versatility in what he can offer. Why would you not bring him in as one of the 90 and see what he still has left? Particularly, his tryouts went well. And you can tell by watching him on the field, athletically, he belongs. That was the thing that jumped out to me the first couple times I saw him is, well, how will he look? Will he look like he fits in? He certainly looks like he fits in at this level.
I thought you'd be wearing that jersey,
I was thinking about it.
My friend Matt Hays is convinced he will make the team. What's your gut?
My gut when it was announced was that it would be a long shot because he's doing something that he's never done before. And he is, 33 going in training camp to 34. So it's certainly a monumental task. But the more that I watch him, the more I think that it makes sense to keep him as one of the 53 if you're going to use him outside of being a tight end. And I think that, if they use him more as an H-back, a fullback, somebody that, if they see a weakness in the opponent that they feel like they can exploit, maybe it is Tim taking a direct snap on a short yardage situation. He just offers you so much. And I think he presents a conundrum for the opponent, the opposing defensive coordinator, because to kind of what you were alluding to earlier, it's almost like it'll be embarrassing for a team if Tebow does anything against them. So I almost think it puts some pressure on the opponent, because while he's going to play a very minimal role, it does make you wonder how much of a work week will the opponent spend working on the Tebow package when you may not see it at all, or you may see it for 4 or 5 snaps. But if he has some success doing something, I think it's going to be it shouldn't be. But I think it'll be somewhat of a source of an embarrassment for the defense that he does it against.
It's like I remember when Urban was here, and he had this we would meet with him after the practice, and he was trying to tell us that he was going to play Joe Hayden some at quarterback this year, in like a wildcat. And I go, yeah, Tim Tebow's your quarterback. Why would you play Joe Hayden at quarterback? And I think your backup was Cam Newton then, but you're going to play Joe Hayden at quarterback. No, he just wanted to get that out there, make people start thinking about it. Now all of a sudden they've got to get that package ready.
And I think it's an excellent point. And I think that's this team is Trevor Lawrence's team. And if it goes well, it will be for the next 15 to 20 years. But I do think the Jaguars have been subpar in short yardage running situations really for every year except Leonard Fournette's rookie season in 2017 when they really should have gotten to the Super Bowl. But other than that, over the last decade, they've been pitiful in short yardage running situations. And, I think when you look at what Tebow can do, what he can offer, I still see a guy that with his physicality, if he's got 10 guys blocking for him and he takes a direct snap and you need a yard, I think he's getting it. Mm-hmm. I think he's getting it at a higher percentage than most players in the NFL would get it. And I think in a close game, which they're playing 17 of these things now, I think with the talent that Urban Meyer has brought in this year with the free agency haul, the draft class, they're going to play a lot of close games. And if Tim Tebow can be the difference in, punching it in when it's 3rd and goal at the 2, or getting you that key first down on 3rd and 1, that it enables you to extend a drive, I mean, then he's worth his weight in gold. So it could be a minimal role in terms of snap counts, but it could be a maximum role when it comes to the difference in a win or two here and there over the course of a 17-game season.
I'm curious, Hays, about what I still call the Gator Bowl, but the stadium, and of course this newest announcement that they made about building this thing, which apparently Urban had already negotiated before he would take the job, this new complex and everything. When do you think we're going to see some of this stuff where, in other words, people coming to a Florida-Georgia game will go, hey, this is different?
I think it'll be quick, because I think this is going to get greenlit pretty quick and get the approval that it needs pretty quickly. The Jaguars learned some valuable lessons in the Lot J failure, and I think they've gone out of their way to make sure that doesn't happen with this project. And so I think the Football Performance Center, $120 million facility, split 50-50 between Shad Khan and the city in terms of cost. I think it's going to get going pretty quickly. They've got a completion date targeted for summer of 2023. So I think it could be as early as, who knows, maybe even this Florida-Georgia game, where fans will at least be able to see that something is going on. There's some sort of construction. Obviously, I don't think anything will be off the ground really, but you could get a sense that they're starting a project. And then I think, when you talk about 2022, I think you'll absolutely be able to see a lot of progress. And then for the 2023 Florida-Georgia game, it should be operational.
And that's the thing for Florida-Georgia. I mean, nobody really talks about any possibility of it moving, and then all of a sudden it gets near the contract, and even the ADs have acknowledged to me, we're just posturing, don't worry, the game's not going anywhere. But if they continue to make these improvements, it's just going to continue to make it a good reason to have it there.
No question. And, you'll have a Four Seasons hotel, so a 5-star luxury hotel with 176 guest rooms. That's certainly going to, make Florida, Georgia a little bit more entertaining and luxurious for people that want to take advantage of it. So the city does seem like it's in a really good place because of Shad Khan and his vision for downtown. And, it seems like over the next decade, you're going to see these projects come to fruition. You're going to see a stadium renovation that, I think everybody will be really happy about, that'll include shade on every seat in the stadium. So I think when you look at the Florida-Georgia component, there's a lot of optimism to believe that game isn't going anywhere. And again, the Jaguars have always really supported that game staying. They've always embraced that, the tradition that Florida-Georgia has in this city. So, I would anticipate that that's a game that will be continued to play and still be one of the great traditions in all of college football.
It's interesting, Hays. Eventually at Florida, they're going to reduce capacity. They're going to make it more chairbacks, obviously, maybe all chairbacks, and maybe a nicer place. In Jacksonville, they've gone the opposite for that one game. We're putting in these temporary seats, which I wouldn't sit in for all the money in China, but they just look scary to me. But
they do.
Do you think they could get to a point where they just go, look, 70,000 is good?
I don't think so, just because there's such high demand. I mean, you've got two of the most passionate fan bases in college football. They both look like, unless either coach decides to leave, they both look like they're going to be great for the next 10 years together, which they've really never experienced in that rivalry's history of any length of time where both programs were in, really good spots to contend for SEC and national championships. So, I think there's going to be so much demand for the ticket with the split of the stadium that I think they're going to continue to put up those seats that, I agree with you, look like they just shouldn't work. And yet, thankfully, they always have.
We had a Facebook comment that Tebow took the media off Lawrence, which was good for the Jags, which is, I think it very well may have been part of Urban's plan. Look, you need a baby's kiss. You need a Winn-Dixie opening. We'll send Tim. And they're going, yay, we want Tim.
Yeah, no question about it. I think I think it would have been more of an impact had they had Trevor Lawrence returned to Clemson, and then they were choosing between Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, guys that really didn't have a lot of spotlight on them in college. With Trevor, he just seems to be immune to it. I guess just because he's been in the spotlight since he was in middle school and has handled it so well at Clemson. So I don't think it does a whole lot in terms of taking pressure off of Trevor Lawrence. Simply because I don't think Trevor Lawrence feels it. I know he should. I understand it being the top pick and being anointed the franchise savior. But he just seems like in talking with him on and off the field, I mean, he just seems like somebody that doesn't get bothered by that. That's just fully accepted that, yes, people are expecting me to do great things, but I'm expecting myself to do great things. And, I don't get wrapped up in it. And I think he has a confidence that I've always been able to do it. And I think I'll be able to do it at this level as well. And I got to say, he threw a pass in practice the other day where he rolled right, stopped, threw it back across the field about 50 yards downfield and hit James O'Shaughnessy dead in stride for a touchdown. So you're seeing the things athletically with Trevor Lawrence that you hoped you'd see. The skills that you hoped would translate so far showing that they do. There's obviously a long way to go, and you can't make firm judgments until he's playing a real opponent. But I don't get a sense that Trevor Lawrence needs anybody to take any sort of pressure off of him. But to your point, it can't hurt. And I think it would have been more meaningful had the Jaguars drafted a player that really wasn't much of a star in college football up until his last, month or two in the sport, like Wilson and Lance and guys like that.
All right, before we let you go, I know you got your own show to do, and I know you guys may even talk about it today, but you've talked about it in the past. This postseason for Florida athletics has been smelly on ice. Other than men's tennis and how great they did, bowl game stunk, NCAA tournament stunk, softball didn't score a run in the super regional, and then the baseball egg you could smell all the way from Jacksonville. It's just been kind of weird, but I also am making the point Florida's in every postseason. That's good. That's right. A good thing.
I think so. That's I think the thing that I would focus in on. They're all for a variety of different reasons. Football, you have all the guys that decide not to play. I think that it's hard for me to get too upset at how they performed in that bowl game. I mean, it was disappointing, but you sort of could tell that was coming. The basketball, at least they won a game in the tournament before losing to a team that was a 15 seed. The baseball and that was inexcusable. And I thought you hit the nail on the head when you joined XL Primetime the other day, saying that it just seemed like the players were thinking about their next spot, where they were going to be drafted and not so much into the present. And boy, that really played out over the weekend.
Yeah, like not hitting the ball where there are no players. They let you hit it over there. They're not going to put anybody there, but you don't want to hit it there. Drove me crazy. Yeah. Hays, always great talking to you, man. Have a good show today. It. And we'll get you on when we get back into football season, okay?
That sounds great, Pat. Great talking with you.
All right, great talking to you. Hays Carlyon from 1010XL. I tell you what, we'll go ahead and take our last break here, and then we'll come back. We got all of our fun things to do that we always like to do. The Adams Ribco to go. Gators of the weekend, and we'll tell you that we're going to change this up because obviously, guys, they ain't no sports. They're done, finished. I mean, we do have track and field, but that's it. That's all we've got. So we're going to change up what we're going to do with the Adams Ribco to go Gators of the weekend. It still will be about the Gators. We need to get to our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks, and again, we're got to get creative there because guess what? No more Gator stuff to talk about for another couple months. And of course, 3 things presented by Hand Law. We always look forward to doing that. All that coming up after we take this break on Another Dooley Noted Podcast. Thanks so much to our title sponsors, ABC Fine Wine and Spirits and Titan MRI, and to our pick sponsor, Leonardo's of Millhopper. You can find us live on Facebook and YouTube or listen at your leisure on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you find all your favorite podcasts. I'm excited to continue this podcast and to have your company on board as a sponsor. If you're interested in being part of the show, email me at patrickdooley54@gmail.com or give me a call, 352-317-3444.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What would give you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where, everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it. Okay, welcome back. It's kind of weird. It's kind of distracting today because we had the thunder, and now we got water running down the pipe over here. But we'll get through it. Thanks so much to our guests. We got great guests too on Friday. On Friday, we're going to be joined by Charles Davis, my good buddy, who does a tremendous job on TV. Doing the NFL and was at the Super Bowl. We'll talk a lot of NFL with him. And then Brian Shelton, of course, the only national, they do that commercial for Jeffrey Meldon on our radio show, and he goes, the only law firm of the Gators. Well, this is the only national championship coach at Florida. However, there are a lot of national championship coaches, and there is still a chance. I am not trying to diminish men's and women's track and field. The job Mouse does over there is great. But look, let's face it, the spectator sports are over. We surprisingly so, and that's where I was talking about how disappointing it was. On the other hand, hey, we'll see what happens with track. I hope they do televise it. I have watched a little bit of some of those things, and I'll get to that in just a minute. In fact, it is time for three things presented by Hand Law, a Florida law firm which helps clients with government. You can learn more about Hand Law by visiting its website, www.hand.law. The firm is available for consultation in Jacksonville. We appreciate Hand Law for being a big part of our show and doing our the three things, which, as you know, is something I started a long time ago and love having it going. Let's start off with number one, which is that Nick Saban gets a contract extension. Nobody's going to be critical of him the way they were critical of Dan Mullen and Florida when they gave their extension. And look, you're going to see more extensions going on, and it's not everybody gets an extension because they've already gotten one the year before. You know what I mean? So in other words, you've got to make sure that when a kid comes in, a recruit comes in to your school, and the moms and dads are sitting there in the coach's office and go, Coach, we hear you may be gone after 2 years. That you can say, I just signed an extension. I'm here at least 5 years. Your son's never going to play for anybody else. Now, he could turn around. This could be anybody, including Nick Saban, and leave tomorrow. But he is signed up, I think, to 2029, I think it was. And he'll make about $10 million a year. Like, he needs money. He's got that Aflac commercial. He's got more money than he knows what to do with. It's not about that. He wants to continue coaching. He likes doing it. And the funny thing is, we've seen coaches, and whether they left, whether Krzyzewski or Roy Williams or anybody else has left the profession because of the NILs and the transfer portal and all that or not is open for interpretation. I happen to think it had a little to do with it. Like Krzyzewski was saying the other day, how it has more to do with the fact they can't get anything to change in the NCAA without five-year process, which is, again, part of what their problem is, many problems that they have. But for Saban, this is perfect, what's going on right now. He may not agree with what's going on in college football, but think about this. NILs, we've been doing that for years, bro. Have you ever heard of Titletown, USA? People, look, we all know this. There's been a million stories about what Alabama's done over the years. And I'm not saying Nick Saban cheats, but I'm saying the boosters like to get involved. And he still doesn't have to answer any of them. They've had problems in the past. They've had some games that were had to be forfeited. But the NIL's right up Alabama's alley. They love it. Yeah. And guess what? They've got so many people with so much money who have – look, Tuscaloosa is not the richest place in the world, but the whole state of Alabama and all the Alabama boosters that come together, and they will make sure all these guys – hey, left tackle? Yeah. We like the way you practiced last week, so why don't you come on down to Dreamland Barbecue and sign some autographs, and we'll give you, whatever if they cap it or not. So NILs are perfect. Transfer portal, nobody's leaving Alabama that's any good. The guys aren't leaving Alabama that are really good players. They're staying there. That's where they're getting developed. That's where they're becoming great players. That's why where they're getting into the NFL. Some players will leave. That's good for them. They found out after like a year or two, man, we might have misevaluated. And so a guy leaves, big deal. Transfers, this transfer from Alabama went to Memphis. Whoop-de-doo. And they will get some players, as they already have, and we know the lineman from Tennessee, Henry To'o. I know I'm not pronouncing it right, but I'm hopefully close, who transferred in. He's a really good player. It's almost like they said, hey, Alabama's dominating. Let's make the rules even better for them. That's not what they were intending, but they did. All right, number 2. Julio Jones to the Titans. It didn't seem like they got a whole lot for him. I've always kind of been a closet Titans fan. You know me, I'm a closet almost everybody fan. But and I like Julio Jones, but man, it seems like the Falcons, that was not a good deal for them. They got a lot of picks, but they weren't first rounders. I would not have let him go. I know you had some issues with salary cap and everything, but it would have been fun to watch Kyle Pitts and Julio Jones play together. I'm kind of sad that we won't. And then finally on 3 things presented by Hand Law, I am into the softball, okay? Even though I told everybody once Florida got beat, I'm done. That season's over. It has been fun to watch. And especially, it's must-see TV today, starting in about an hour and 10 minutes, because Oklahoma and James Madison. I never thought I'd be saying these words. Oklahoma and James Madison play. I can't wait to see that game. I just like to watch Odyssey Alexander pitch. I like to watch the way she plays. Oklahoma, can get back into the finals, which a lot of people after they lost said, well, that's it. They're not going to do that. They could do just what Florida almost did that year. So that's interesting. And then you got FSU Alabama, and I've been trying to figure out who I'm rooting for, or who I'm rooting against, I should say. I'm not rooting for either one of them. But again, it's been great TV. What has not been great is the NCAA again screwing something up, having FSU and Oklahoma State end their game. They didn't end their game till 2:00 in the morning. It's the way they treat these student athletes, especially the women student athletes. It's sickening. And Patty Gasso, the Oklahoma coach, who had nothing to do with it, no dog in the hunt, was livid about how terrible it is. And it is. It's just rotten the way they do it. But they'll continue to do it. And you know what? Every time I talk to an administrator or an athletic director of some kind, you know what they always say? These kids, they're young. They're resilient. Okay, really? So they're just things you're using, basically. No, I don't even want to get off on this rant. Okay. Leonardo's at Millhopper Quick Picks. We love Kyle over there at Leonardo's. And I'm going to get creative and figure out something for the rest of these because we're running out of Gator events. In fact, we're out of them. And so we need to come up with some other stuff. So tonight I'm giving you one that's a little bit different. And I'm giving it till tomorrow because it's Tuesday night. So this is Tuesday night, Hawks at Sixers, Braves at Phillies. I thought it was just kind of funny. They're both playing, they're both on the road. 1 or 2 wins for the Atlanta teams. Shouldn't be that hard to figure out, guys. Really loved watching the Hawks play the other night. That was a good win for them. All right, so that is our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. In fact, I'll probably have a lunch over with Kyle and try to figure out what would be good to do for the summer. The summer it's daunting when you think about trying to get some vacations in, and the fact that everything's kind of stopped. But we're not that far from media days. We're about 5 weeks from media days, and that'll be kind of the crank it up. So let's get through these with some good, creative, interesting things. And one of them is going to be at the Adams Ribco to go Gator of the weekend. And Gators of the weekend this weekend are Leanna Wong and Riley McCoskey. I can't read her name because I crossed something out here. I don't know who these girls are, the young girls, but they're coming to Florida. They're going to be incoming freshmen, I believe. They made the U.S. national teams. Wong for the 3rd time, McCoskey for the 5th time. So it looks like more great athletes coming to the University of Florida. That was just Sunday that happened. So again, that's we could do a track Adams Ribco Gator of the weekend, possibly next Monday. And we still may. But one thing we're going to do with the Adams Ribco is we're going to start a countdown. Not even a countdown. We're going to start doing, during the summer, some Mount Rushmores and I know this is a cliche, everybody does them, but I'm going to do them right, okay? That's the difference. Somebody said, I actually heard somebody on the radio one day say, who would be on the Mount Rushmore of presidents? I'm like, well, that is what Mount Rushmore is. It is presidents already. They're already up there. But we're going to do, for example, I'll give you a perfect example. On Friday, we'll do the Mount Rushmore of football Florida, and you can only have 4. And my 4th one, I think, will differ from a lot of people's. So we'll talk about that on Friday. 2 great guests. Brian Shelton, of course, national championship coach at the University of Florida for men's tennis, is going to join us, as well as Charles Davis, who does a great job. Love Charles Davis. He's one of the most interesting people I know. That's going to do it. Thanks so much to Evan for producing. Thanks so much for Mother Nature for getting involved here a little bit today. And we appreciate everybody. I will be by the way, at Ballyhoo tonight, guest bartending at about 6:20 or so. If you want to come by there, all the proceeds going to stop children's cancer. So come on by. Until we see you on Friday and look forward to it, I am Pat Dooley. I'm deep. I'm way back. And I am out of here.